The Martínez family had been looking for a quiet place, away from the hustle and bustle of the city, to start fresh. Ana and Francisco, along with their children Laura and Sergio, found what seemed to be the perfect conditions: an old mansion on the outskirts of the village of Almaraz. The place had been empty for years, but its classic architecture and spaciousness offered a sense of nostalgia and mystery. Ana, despite the grandeur of the house, couldn't shake the chill she felt every time she walked down the long, dark hallways. There was something in the air, a sense of being watched, but she didn't want to worry her family. Francisco, always optimistic, thought it was just a mix of the move and the isolated surroundings. Laura, the oldest child, found something fascinating in every corner of the mansion. Her curiosity led her to the attic, a dusty place full of old boxes. It was there, among forgotten objects and old clothes, that she found the doll. The figure, though deteriorated, had a strange beauty. It was made of finely carved wood, but what made it truly terrifying was its lack of a face. Its head was completely smooth, as though someone had erased all traces of its features. Intrigued, Laura picked it up and took it with her, feeling an inexplicable bond with the figure. Ana, upon seeing Laura with the doll, felt a bad omen but said nothing. She thought it would be just a passing phase, but it wasn't. Since the doll had arrived in the house, things began to change. Laura started spending hours alone in her room, staring at the doll. Sometimes, her parents would hear her whispering, as if having a conversation with it. When they asked, Laura would just smile, but her gaze had acquired a strange intensity. At night, the cold in the house seemed to intensify. Ana always thought it was due to the mansion's old age, but the events soon became stranger. Francisco, skeptical, attributed the noises to the old wooden beams. But Ana felt that something was lurking, something she couldn't see but could certainly feel. One night, Ana was suddenly awakened by a scream. She ran to Laura's room, only to find her motionless, standing next to the window, staring into the empty void. "Laura, what's wrong?" she asked. The girl replied in an empty, distant voice. "She's watching from outside, Mom, she's watching." Ana tried to reassure her, but couldn't help noticing that the doll had changed places. Though she was sure she had left it on the table, it was now sitting in a chair near the window. Over time, Laura's behavior began to grow more erratic. She was no longer the cheerful and curious girl she once was, but someone distant and disturbed. Sometimes, she would sit in front of the doll, whispering inaudible words to it. The atmosphere in the house grew heavier and more oppressive with each passing day. Desperate, Ana decided to investigate the history of the mansion and finally discovered an old legend about the doll. In her research, she found that the doll had been made by an old craftsman named Javier Almo, a man who had lost his daughter Isabel in a tragic fire. Grief-stricken, Javier had tried, using his skills as a craftsman, to create a doll that could bring his daughter back to life. It was said that the doll had absorbed Isabel's soul, and anyone who possessed it would be visited by her spirit, always seeking to recover what she had lost. Her face, intrigued and terrified at the same time, Ana confronted Laura about the doll. The girl, in an almost hypnotic trance, responded with words that didn't seem like her own. "I need to see it. I need it to look at me." One afternoon, after a particularly strange day at the mansion, Laura disappeared. No one could find her, neither in her room nor anywhere else in the house. Panic overtook Ana and Francisco, who began searching desperately throughout the mansion until they reached the attic, the place where it all had begun. There, in the shadows of the dusty place, they found the doll. But this time, something had changed. The doll was no longer empty. Now! Its face appeared incomplete, as if it were taking form. Ana, her heart in her throat, realized that the doll had claimed her daughter. The doll's empty eyes seemed to look directly at her, as if mocking her helplessness. In a final attempt to save Laura, Ana decided to visit the wisest old man in the village, a man who, according to rumors, knew the darkest of legends. With his help, Anna and Francisco learned that in order to free Laura, they had to perform an ancient ritual that involved confronting the shadows of the doll's past. They would need to strip it of the darkness that had possessed it, returning what had been taken from it. That night, with the ritual prepared, the family faced the doll once more. The atmosphere was charged with dark energy, and the candles flickered as if an invisible wind was hitting them. As the parents recited the ancient words, the house began to creak, and the shadows seemed to come alive. The doll started to move, its empty eyes slowly opening, as if waking from a long slumber. Suddenly, Laura appeared, but she was not the girl her parents knew. Her body was rigid, and her face appeared distorted, a blend of human features and the doll's face. "I told you, Mom," she said in a voice that was no longer human. "I need a face. Now I have one." With an explosion of dark energy, the doll fused with Laura's body. Anna and Francisco, terrified, were forced to make a final decision: destroy the doll forever or lose their daughter forever. The ritual continued, but at the last moment, Laura's face transformed, showing a grotesque smile like the doll's, and her eyes, empty and cold, pierced her parents' souls. The family finally succeeded in stripping the doll of its power. However, the price was high. Laura was never the same again, though her body was with them. Her soul seemed to be trapped inside the doll, which now, faceless, waited silently in the attic, seeking a new host. And every time someone looked at the doll, they could feel the pressure of a dark fate that seemed inevitable. The family, marked by tragedy, left the mansion, but they couldn't escape what they had unleashed. The faceless doll remained, waiting for its next victim.